Good morning, beautiful women of the Vision Builders community. Welcome back. This is the last interview for this week in the Blossoming Women's series, and I am so excited to introduce you to Kerry Kott. But before I do, I just want to add this little reminder to lean in. Shut up all your distractions, close the door, just carve out this beautiful, precious time. We'll be here together for 45 minutes, maybe, or an hour, depending on how we go. I hope you've got a cup of tea and it's just a time to relax and listen to a story, a beautiful story of a woman all the way over in Michigan. I believe you're in Michigan, Kerry. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, Kerry Kott is and I wrote it down because the list of things is quite extraordinary. An acupuncture physician, Chinese medicine woman with certifications in pranic psychotherapy, which I'm dying to learn what that is, food healing, nude photography, and she also does nude ceremonies and retreats. Welcome, Kerry, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me here, welcoming me in your space. I got a cup of tea too.
I've got this beautiful blend. It's actually called Womanhood. I don't know if you get this particular tea in the States, and now I'm just going to go blank on the brand. That's my menopausal brain. I blame it on. I just get this kind of void opens up, and it's like, yeah, no, that's not coming back. We'll leave that for now. So, Kerry, as I love to do in these interviews, I want to take a little step back in time and start with who you were. Even I know you grew up in the country, so maybe even around the age of 8 or 10, like you were living on land at that point with your family.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I was.
tell me about your childhood. I'm dying to hear.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know we were gonna go back to 8 or 10.
I know. I do this, why I do this, just for context. And I'm actually stripping off as we talk. There's a theme here. I went to the ocean this morning and it was freezing and I was so cold I couldn't warm up. So I put on wool and now I'm just hot. But I go back because we lay the foundation for so much of who we are in the first 7 years of life. There's a lot of neural networks that are all wired in, as you very likely are very aware of. And so who we are around 8 or 10 is a really interesting reflection time if we look back at that, because through our lives, once we really start into that schooling experience and definitely into high school and beyond, we start to, accumulate layers and layers and layers, and we change who we are to fit in and like all that stuff. So I always think it's really interesting to think about, if we can, for those that have got the memories, kind of who you were then. Were you a wild child? This is, like I'm thinking barefooted, muddy feet and like dreadlocks in your hair. And this is the romantic in me.
I love that. Well, it's definitely more is coming to me. It's dropping in and hearing you share about that. Like, barefoot, yes. Playing outside, going into the pond, playing in the creek, going through the woods. We had ducks and chickens. I was actually just sharing with my mom the other day, like I remember so vividly our pond and the chicken coop there and the ducks. And it was just sharing a memory of really enjoying that particular part of the property in that space. And it just one of the things that was just so amazing to me is like, if you think of a pond, like imagine a pond, it's not very big, it's kind of small, but like ponds are mucky, right? And they're like gooey and mucky. And I just remember being a little girl and like going in there barefoot and not being weirded out by like, ooh, it's gooey and mucky. And like I would catch frogs and
Yeah.
Just like an uninhibited
Yeah.
aspect of that, but also really loving being with animals. Like animals were really important for me. I wouldn't have said that as a little girl. They just, they just were. And so it's definitely, I didn't have any dreads. I actually had super blonde hair, like white blonde hair as a little girl. And I also think about, I loved being really active.
Yeah.
Like, I had this path beat down in our yard where I would have a trampoline in the middle, and I would do like my own gymnastics routines, and I would do like cartwheels, and I would just go back and forth.
Yeah.
And I loved ice skating. So that little pond that we had would freeze over, but it wouldn't freeze over like perfectly. There would be like cattails sticking up in places. So I'd have to like build this routine and like around it. And those are like some of my most dominant, memorable memories of that time. And just having a lot of joy.
Yeah.
Being outside, like a lot of joy. And I just remember being really happy as a little girl. And I have some memories like from my mom who would share that I was really independent. But I was also really shy, was the story. But I also think I was very discerning in particular. Like that's how I view it now, is like some people I was really open to, and then some people just didn't feel right. And I think maybe sometimes that's where the shyness would come in, but it was really like a discerning, because when we're children, we feel things, right? And we can feel like openness and energies of people, and who feels welcoming and maybe who doesn't. And so, and it's also
would you describe yourself as shy now? Do you feel like you're still shy?
I mean, I have awkward parts of me that show up.
Yeah.
And maybe that could be translated as being shy. Or like when I feel nervous, or like yeah, I definitely have parts of me that show up. And
So
yeah.
when you were a teenager, did you maintain that kind of way of being? Were you able to do that, or do you feel like there was a shift of fitting in with your schooling environment or peers?
Yeah, I would say there was definitely a shift, because in some ways it was like that light. I mean, I feel like I'll call it that light, that like inner innocence of light, of joy. I never felt like I completely like it dimmed. I always felt like that was a part of me even throughout till now. But during high school, I would say that definitely shifted for me, and becoming more, I don't know what the word is, but I get this image of like kind of like wanting to come in and like protect my space a bit more. And having the experience of like being teased more. And I had sexual trauma when I was 13 and 16. And so those things definitely impacted. They really impacted me. And at the time, I was experiencing it, but in hindsight, I can really see how much that impacted. And even just like being teased, and that was really impactful for me. And I also it was a small town, so there weren't very many people. So, and I don't even know if that actually makes anything better or worse. It's just like there were less people, so it was like the smaller the space got for me.
Yeah, I agree. I am on the fence about which is better or worse. I've always had a pull and an appeal for small village life where people know people, and when you walk down the street, people know people's names, and there's a connection, and there is also that um, need to find out how to get along with people. I think in bigger communities and in cities, if we don't think we're going to get on with somebody, then we just there's a lot of dismissing and cancelling, and which can't happen so much in tiny communities because you've got to work out how to get on with people. So there's always the pros and cons. Everything in life is a duality. There is no such thing as this is the ideal, unfortunately, as much as we all want that. So when you left school, launching yourself into womanhood, what did you imagine you were going to be doing at that point in your life?
Oh gosh, what I imagined, what I would have really wanted, and what I did were two different things.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
That's
my gosh, like
true.
the brain of a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, 19-year-old girl, and I I you know, I had it that I was supposed to do something academically.
Yeah.
However, what was in my heart is I loved basketball and I was offered a scholarship to play basketball.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't follow that. I thought, academics, and I also loved math. I loved algebra. I loved physics. I loved finding the equation. What is the mystery of,
Ah,
and, and so like, I thought, I was like, okay, I'm going to do something academically as it relates to math.
yeah.
And I chose accounting. Not the same thing. It's not. I did, you know what I'm just remembering? I wanted to be an environmental engineer, and I bet that would have totally landed differently as it relates to my passion with numbers.
Wow.
However, even before, like numbers, but also basketball was really something. And sometimes I think, what would have been different in my life if I would have followed that thread?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So,
I'm in awe of anyone who gets numbers. I just completely glaze over with numbers. It's just there's no computing. So I really admire people that have that brain cell activated. Like it didn't work for me.
well, I kind of lost it. I mean, I discovered that accounting wasn't it.
No.
Like I got shortly into it. I was like, this isn't what I love.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have to figure out where somebody's expenditure goes. Like
No.
I was like, no. But then it's actually, that's a pivotal part of my journey into Chinese medicine and what happened and shifted in my life during that time while I was doing that. But I didn't really continue to use math in the ways that I was. So my brain
It
it
is.
doesn't really operate the same anymore as it relates to numbers.
It'd be interesting if there's something there. That's a thread that we're just pulling out in this conversation that I think there's something there. So you got diagnosed with Crohn's. That was a big kind of shifting moment for you as a young adult, yeah?
Yeah, I was 19 and I went in for exploratory surgery. Yeah. So, your face was like, yeah, that was the experience, like, of whoa, what is this?
Mm.
And I was having a lot of pain in my lower abdomen, but I was keeping it to myself. Yeah. So that was a pattern for me of keep it inside. I got this. I can handle this. But there was a lot of fear with that too. But I was newly in college and I was partying, and there was a part that felt shame. Like, there was going to be shame about the fact that I was experiencing this, and like the voices of like, well, you're doing this to yourself. And, that just felt like if I was to expose that, it would just, everything would be worse. So I kept it inside, and the pain in my body just got worse and worse and worse. And then finally it got so bad that I shared with my mom, and my mom's very like, let's get on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew that about my mom. So I knew once I told her, like, something was going to happen. And so they went into exploratory surgery and had my appendix, a small part of my small intestine, and my ileocecal valve and a part of my large intestine removed, which is a really important part of the body.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was happening, and I was studying accounting at the time, but I was also in the space of like, I'm not into this. Like, this isn't what I thought it would be. And then after I had my surgery, I just remember they gave me this diagnosis. I went online, I started reading about it. I went into forums, and when I had a follow-up with my surgeon, I was like, okay, so I have this going on, and there are things that need to be changed. And I just remember her saying that I could continue my life the way that it was. And I just was like, that doesn't make sense to me, because I'm here with what I've been doing. And that sent me that was really shifting for my entire life. And I got referred to a gastroenterologist, and something inside of me like knew there was something for me. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And then when I got referred to this gastroenterologist, I went and I had an appointment, and he gave me some medications. I didn't feel them. I didn't want to take them. It just didn't make sense. I was like, if I have this problem, this doesn't seem like it's addressing, like, why? Yeah. And if I can continue my life the way that it was, like, that doesn't make sense either, because that's how I got here. Mm. And I went for a follow-up visit with my gastroenterologist, and I don't even remember what he said to me. I just remember it sounded like, you're 19. What do you know? Like, you're like, what could you possibly know? Because I just said, I'm not going to take these medications. Like, it has all these side effects. It doesn't seem like it's addressing the root. However, I said that, but that's what was there. And I fired him. I was like, no, this is
strength at that age is quite remarkable. I wonder if you see that for yourself, but it really is quite remarkable to be in front of a professional with such authority who says this is the answer, this is the path, to trust your intuition and go, yeah, I'm not so sure. That's quite remarkable. I remember, like, even coming into this online world and seeing people that were promoting themselves as an intuitive healer, as an intuitive, and I was like, what is that? It's kind of, felt a bit woo-woo, and it wasn't something that I could grab hold of. But the more that I've interviewed people and the more that I reflect on my own story, there's this resonance of truth that is the highest resonance. And when you are wired to listen to that, that's intuition. So it's the intuition to go, it's that kind of that questioning. And I've, in my own life, I see that I have that in education, in the medical field, in so many different areas. And so I feel that intuition for you was obviously really, you were tapped into that from an early age, and for you to be courageous enough to stand for that is quite remarkable. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I received that, and it's always felt like inherent in me. And even in the midst of like some really shitty things, like in my timeline, I can see how like strong that connection and intuition has been for me. And like, yeah, like when I think about that and I feel that energy, it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
like, because I'm, I'm 19 and I'm in a vulnerable space and I have the courage to be like, no, like this isn't it. But it was the feeling. I can feel it right now so much. It was just like, it's such a strong feeling
Yeah.
that's like got me. And that's what carried me through that. And that's what had me be able to be like, I don't know what's there for me. This isn't it. And I'm not willing to
Yeah.
like do this. And it clearly was something, so my intuition so strong, guiding me to something that I didn't even know in that moment, but I felt it so full in my body.
Yeah, I have a theory, and it's just something to play with an observation. But I have a theory that for those of us that have that really strong connection to the natural world, who are grounded in the energy and the electrons and everything that come through having contact with hands and feet in the dirt and the way that we eat and all those sort of things from childhood, there's a guiding force in that has never steered me wrong. And so when I came across you and the work that you do now, which we'll get there, but your obvious deep connection with Mother Nature is, I feel, is a thread that runs right through your life that's been a guiding force. And it's it is a theory, but I stand by it.
I love your theory and I really connect to that. And
Yeah.
as a theory, as a truth within myself, speaking for myself, of that relationship and that being, nature provides a space. I have it. It's a space of purity, of clarity, of just this energy, protection, and
that profound intelligence as well. It's the intelligence of life. It's the divine intelligence. We're not talking about academics. We're talking about that, divine intelligence. However, if you want to talk about God or Mother Nature or the universe or whatever it is, but this is what it is.
yeah.
So you then turned to, I think it was a family friend who's a natural healer, a kinesiologist, or them.
Yeah, his name is Dr. Nelson, and a family friend of ours recommended him.
Yeah.
And what's that?
No, you go, keep going.
Okay. And so they recommended him, and I went, and which I think it was just like a yes from the get-go. But so this is what was so significant about my time with him is I remember being in that room with him and feeling like a human being. And yeah, it's a really big deal.
I'm going to interrupt because I just want, like, I've told this story before, and I think it is pivotal because your language is almost exactly the language I use, because I went down a path I was working in, I call it my Coyote Ugly days. I don't know if you know the movies, but I was dancing on bars, working in hospitality, just like a fish. I was drinking so much, I was smoking, doing all the things, and got sick. And my mum sent me to a naturopath, and it was the turning point in my life. It was a pivotal moment, and I don't remember her name. I wish I did so I could credit her. But sitting in front of this woman, and when you go to a naturopath, it's like for an hour. It's not a 5-minute visit through the doctor.
Yeah.
Treats you like a car with parts. But to sit and just feel like somebody is listening, somebody cares, somebody's really interested, and there's this beautiful, she was a radiant kind of energy, so healthy and vital, and I was like, that's what I want. And that's where I went and studied naturopathy, and it's the same story as yours. So good, so good.
Yeah. Oh my God.
They change our lives. So I interrupted. Go on.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for inserting that there. Yeah. Yeah. He listened, and I didn't feel the experience of being judged for how I was even in that space within myself and how I got there. And he would, kinesiology, he would do this muscle testing, then he would touch my toe and he would do these things. He's also a holistic dentist and a chiropractor. And so he'd do these things. And so to me, I had never experienced that before. And he gave me a little laser to put on different acupuncture points. And he would tell me, put this laser on these points certain amount of times a day. And I just remember being like, I don't understand any of this, but it feels so right. Like, and then he gave me when he did his muscle testing, he gave me some different supplements to take to help. And I just was like, I don't really understand this. And again, like, it just felt really right. And so I would go and put this laser on these points, and I would take these things and do the things that he recommended. And I just even remember I had a really tough day one day where I ate something. And so a big part of it for me was like really tending to my diet, because things that I was putting in were super agitating. And I wanted to eat something, and I ate, I think it was like broccoli on a buffet or whatever, and I got sick. And I was able to call him, and that was a big deal. Like, I didn't have an appointment, I was just able to call him and be like, this is what's happening. And then he was able to help me in that conversation, and then have me come in. And he just really inspired me. And I remember, so I had a part-time job working in accounts payable department. And I was sitting at the desk, and I had like 2 classes until I got an associate's in accounting. And I was sitting there, and I just was like, this is not my passion. And I was just like, I want to make a difference in people's lives like my doctor did for me. And it was done. That moment, that was done. I called my parents. I just said, I'm not doing this. And to me, it didn't even make sense. Why would I finish? Like, why would I stay longer doing something that I didn't want to do? And so I didn't finish that degree. There's no regrets about that. It's not impacted my life in any way. And then I started searching for alternative medicine schools.
Well, I would put it out there that you needed to get Crohn's. The universe was like, she's off track.
Homegirl's off track.
Wake up. Let's pull you back on track. And this is life happening for us, not to us. It's like, if you were on that path and you hadn't have gotten sick, you perhaps wouldn't have ended up where you needed to end up today. And so these are the things that happen. And when we're in it, it's like, why is this happening? That's so unfair. But it's like, just a nudge. You're off track. Let's come back. Just another theory. I have a lot of theories.
I like your theories. I connect to your theories. I got the same ones.
Yeah. So you left accounting and you went straight into, was that acupuncture was your first kind of?
Yeah, I found an acupuncture school. There was a little diversion of meeting my ex-husband that sent me to a different school, a different acupuncture school. And for whatever reason, and maybe this is just because where I grew up and how I grew up, but I was like, I have to go somewhere where there's a big emphasis on working with plants, on herbal medicine. And it wasn't even necessarily that I was like doing that already. I mean, maybe in some way, but like, I can see being a little girl and connection with the earth, like, I mean, surrounded with plants. So they were always speaking, and we would forage for food. But I just remember being like, I have to go somewhere where plants, herbal medicine is an important piece of it.
Mm.
And so I found a school, and I got diverted to a different school because my ex-husband showed up in this space. But yeah, I went to a school that was for acupuncture, herbal medicine, and it was contemporary. So it included some other modalities. But I don't even remember like what moment was like acupuncture, because at first it was just alternative, like looking for an alternative space. And then it just, it wasn't a thought ever really. It was just like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. This is what's happening. This is the medicine I'm called to.
And this is where all your science brain kicked in to do acupuncture. I mean, you have acupuncture without, doing all this, the biology and the anatomy and physiology and all the other bits that come with it. So it's, yeah, that's your science brain served you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I ever really thought about that, honestly.
So from acupuncture, you then did, well, I mean, I guess it goes hand in hand, Chinese medicine, and all the herbs. And I'm one of, I think, 1% of the freaky people on the planet that love Chinese tinctures. I don't know what it is about my taste buds, but I love the tinctures. A lot of people can't take them, but yeah, it just tastes like healing to me. There's something.
Well, they're full of flavors too, right?
Yeah.
There's an array of palettes available in working with herbal medicine that isn't typically readily available in our diets, or modern diets for most people, not everyone. But so that's, I think, goes along with like maybe why it's hard for some people to take them, because it's so removed, but they're strong and they're potent. And I just keep seeing and hearing like bitterness, because bitterness is typically removed from taste buds in a lot of ways and like sweetened up.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, our palates, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way before. But yes, we have the Western diet is very bland for the most part. The kind of brown foods, bread, like breads and pastas and rices, and there's not flavor. Then we add tomato, and that's kind of the flavor. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously there was a lot of pieces that came into your healing modalities. And then somewhere along the way you added in nudity, which is the unique healing modality that I haven't actually come across before. So I'm really intrigued about this. How did that unfold? How did that come about?
Well, I didn't go looking for it. Just like all the other magical gifts, they're just guided in. And so I'd been a practitioner working with patients, patient in, patient out, one-on-one. And I got to a point, and I was living in Florida in the US, and I got to a point where I was missing this deep relationship with the earth because I was having to drive to be with nature. And that was, I mean, it just like wore on me. And I was like, like, I don't want to do that anymore. I was like, I just want to return to like nature's, like, I look out my window, I open my door, boom. There's no open time, there's no close time. And I don't have to drive 2 hours to go like be with a bunch of trees and water. And so like that was wearing on my spirit. And at the same time, I was just like, I don't want to be indoors as much as I was being indoors and working with my patients. And I just was like, I want to be outside. And at the same time, I was getting this feeling of like, I wanted to work with groups. And I a little bit had worked with groups and would have like meditation groups and things like that. And so I started to take my patients outside, some of them. It's not super ideal, really, like working with needles and, different tools. Maybe if we had a private space, it's a little different. But at that time, I didn't really have like this private outdoor space. And then I got this guidance to do a silent nature walk and just have a space where people would gather. We'd have a space to share and an intention, and we would go walk in nature in silence, intentional silence. And I was blown away by how many people showed up for that first time. And people would show up while it was raining, and we would go walk in the rain in silence. And that was just like nourishing for me. I was outside, I was with people, and we were engaged in something that had us drop deeper into ourselves. And so around this time, so I'm like getting this stirring of like, what I'm doing isn't it anymore? Like, what is it? The inner part of me is like, I gotta find the solution now. Like, if it's not this, what is it? And I think a part of that was like run by like, I have to provide, I have to earn an income, like I have to have something figured out so I can provide for myself. So there was definitely a layer of that in there, like wanting it to come. And this is interesting because I typically don't remember this moment, or like it's not the thing that really stands out to me in this journey of nudity. But I had some guidance and some thought about taking nude photographs and having it be an art, like an art expression. And I was just thinking about like, when I think about cool art, like art that's art, where it's like, that's interesting. And I was thinking like, that's like with nudity, like maybe it's just like a piece of the body, like a body piece, and like capturing it with a photo and it being just like really unique and expressing something different. And I had a coach at the time, a business coach, and I did a women's nude retreat. But at this time, I was still like, what am I really doing? So it had dropped in for me, but it doesn't stand out as a significant moment in this journey, which is interesting because then I was gifted a flight pass from one of my friends, and a flight pass gave me the opportunity to fly where this particular airline that he worked for flew for free, for standby. I could fly standby. And so I was like, I'm going to do this journey. And I went backpacking around the world for a whole year. And while I was on this journey, I was taking photographs of myself, and there were nude photographs outside in nature. And I was still looking for like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Like, what's my business going to do? Like, what am I going to do? And I can't remember if it was before I went on this. I think it was before I went on my year of backpacking, but I had a trip where I came to Michigan. And I had the inspiration to go into the woods and do a nude photo shoot of myself. And I remember being here and waking up the day that it was like, this is the day that I'm going to go into the woods and I'm going to take these photographs. So it was like a Christmas day, like waking up for Christmas Day. Like, this is so exciting. And also because there's privacy. Yeah. I'm going to be alone in the woods. Like, I'm not going to be interrupted. Yeah. And I went into this woods that's right here.
I just asked, like, in your mind, what was the intention behind it? Did it feel like it was going to be something healing for you? Did it feel like, like what was the thought in your mind around doing it? The why?
I definitely felt that healing for me energy.
Yeah.
And there was something exciting about it,
Yeah.
connecting.
Yeah.
I don't know if in that moment I could have said those words.
Yeah.
It,
Comes to my mind is it's like such a vulnerable thing to do. But that's not going to be everybody's experience. But I imagine the vulnerability of that. I mean, there's nothing that exposes you more in every way because it's exposing you to, there's no hiding anything. There's no hiding. I can put on makeup and earrings and clothes and create an image, and like all of this is a level of performance. This is how I want people to see me in the world. But to do that in a way that's completely naked, there is nothing to hide behind. So I'm truly fascinated by the thinking and the inspiration. And anyway, I'll let you keep going. I'll let you keep going.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because when I went into the woods, I set my camera up and I clearly got the guidance to just take one at a time. It was just like one photo at a time and look at it. And I don't know, maybe it was like the fifth photo into it. So I found this beautiful spot that had a lot of moss, and I love moss. There's something just really magical about moss. And I would take one piece of clothing off. So I'd take a piece of clothing off and I'd take a photo, and I would look at the photo, and then I would take another piece of clothing off, and I did this process. And then when I was fully naked, one of the photos, quite early into the process, I just I'm looking at myself in this photo, and it's like, wow, it's just like, I'm really beautiful. And that is so significant for me because I mean, that was the first time that I actually looked at myself and had like some deeper inner, like, wow, I'm really beautiful. And it wasn't about like, oh, my body is beautiful. It's like, I'm beautiful. And I mean, I don't always have that feeling to this day, but it was a pivotal, crucial moment. And all I knew was that I wanted to keep doing whatever was happening, like whatever was happening in this space for me, and experiencing being naked in environments where they were non-sexual spaces. That was so pivotal for what I'm doing now, and how this is even a part of my life is because I also experienced being naked in environments where there was no sex. That was big. No, nothing. Like I was safe. My body was safe in that particular way. And especially having experienced sexual trauma, like that was a big, big, big thing. And then being outside and being naked, like that opened up this space that I could feel and see my own like beauty of my existence.
It's I knew that I was going to be really fascinated by this conversation. And we attach our identities so much. Like when in part of this series and the work that I do is becoming the highest, most authentic expression of who we are. And we attach so much of that identity to I am a insert mother qualification, something. And then there is the way that we dress, the way that we show up in the world, the face that we present to the world. There's all of this is what I do, this is what I have, the car I drive, the house I live in, like the suburb I'm in, and all these things that we use to create an identity for ourselves. But to stand in nature with nobody to observe, completely naked, and to be able to see an image of that and say, this is who I am. This is me. I can see the extraordinary healing power of that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very powerful and unbelievably courageous to my mind. I would find that a difficult process, but I think I would like to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did that for like 4 or 5 years before I ever shared it with anyone, like shared it in a space where I invited them to come in, because I was sharing on social media bits and pieces of the photography that I was taking, because it just was like, that just was like some part of who I was becoming or was. And so it was a long process. And I still even remember the first time I got naked in a non-sexual environment, and it was I had to go in the bathroom and give myself a pep talk. And I looked at myself, I took my clothes off so I could see myself naked first, and then I put them back on and went back out, and then was like, okay, now I'm getting naked. But it was really tough. It was really tough.
Yeah.
Um,
Nothing to hide.
and
Mm.
what's that?
Nothing to hide behind.
Yeah, but there was just so much in that I was like, I want to do this again. I want to do this again. There was something was getting really freed up for me in that process. And it still does. There's still layers, because I wouldn't have thought like, yeah, I'm going to work with nudity. I'm going to create spaces for people to be naked outside. I wouldn't have guessed like 10 years ago, like, yeah, that's something I'm going to do. It wouldn't even have like, and so how this just started unfolding for me. And I just continued to do it, but it was for myself and a part of my expression. And so when it even crossed my mind to share it with other people as like a form of healing and inviting them in this way, which again, I did do it. I did do it like 2 years before I started doing it. Is that I got a professional camera because of a little spider in the woods one day. I couldn't get a photo of him with my phone. And I just was like, this doesn't make sense. This isn't how my life goes. Like, something's going on here. Why can't I get this photo of this little spider in the middle of winter? I was like, I didn't even consider what spiders did in winter. And I was like, there this little spider was crawling around, and I was trying to capture him. And my friend said to me, he's like, maybe it's time you get a professional camera. And I just was like, he'd been telling me that for years because I love photography. And I was like, you're right. It is time. And then a camera showed up, I think within a couple of weeks. And I was out taking a photo of a little leaf because I was so excited. I was like, oh, great. I can zoom in nature and get like these little pieces. And I was taking a photo of this leaf and zooming in, and all of a sudden, thought comes in of, I'd really like to take photographs of other people naked in nature, like the wild human animal, and have it be a space. And I had a woman who was coming for a private retreat at my cabin. And while she was here, I didn't share this with anyone. This was like 2 weeks later. She was here and she said, could you take some photographs of me naked outside? And I was like, would I?
Yeah.
And so I had my first client, but I didn't even share that I was doing that with other people. She had found me on social media and was following my shares. And it just opened up, and I was like, I'd really like to keep doing this. And that was a part of the unfolding. So I did that for a year. And then a year into that, I get a thought that says it's time to do events. And it was like, go do this event this time, this date. And I was like, okay. And that is what's really like unfolded that was really pivotal in the shift and the what I'm doing now, which is really about, I mean, ultimately for me, this is about connecting deeper within ourselves. Like these are our bodies. There's so much shame and freedom and nature. Like this is about our relationship being a part of the earth. And for me, I was really like, I spent so many days just being like, what's really in my heart? Like I was asking every day. I was waking up like, what's really in my heart? Like, what am I going to share that's in my heart? And what I meant by that too was like, that wasn't hard for me because there's a part of being a practitioner, the business side, that just got so hard for me. And, but I was also taking on way too much myself and not delegating. And, but I was just like, I want to do something that no matter what I'm going to do about it, like I'm going to enjoy, even if I have to do something that's not that fun, it's going to be fun. Like that's what I was asking my heart. Like what's in here that is just going to light me up every nook and cranny? Like that's what I was praying for and looking for. And I spent many days where spirit was just like, go do nothing. Like just stop asking, like just go do nothing, just go outside. Just go be outside in silence. Like just go.
A month of silence. I think I read on your website. Didn't you spend like a month in silence, or was it?
Yeah, that's the most amount of time I've spent in silence. And I do it quite regularly in different ways. And that's a journey on itself.
I've got one of my dearest friends is from Holland. She's Dutch, from Holland. She's Dutch. And she's been in Australia for quite a few years, but we have a nude beach near where I live, and she goes there, and she's always, I mean, and that topless sunbathing and so on in Europe is just, no, it's just the norm. But I think in America and England and Australia, this is very conservative, really, cultures. She's said to me so many times, Edwina, just come with me. For heaven's sake, just come with me. And I'm like, I just can't. I can't. And I find it fascinating to look at the threads of where these, like how programmed we are by the environments that we grow up in, how programmed we are by this lineage of women that for us, started with not being able to see anything but like this bit, you even want to wear gloves and don't show your ankles, and like slowly we've been peeling off. Now you can see my this is in our DNA, it's in our programming, and through our great grandmothers and our grandmothers and through to our mothers, and it's like, then there's the don't show your cleavage, and like there's just so much programming in there about women's bodies and what's acceptable and what is shameful and what makes us feel vulnerable. And I just, even as a mother of four, I breastfed all of my children for 2 years. And if I was out in public, I would happily feed my children, because to me that was it was just natural. But I would have women coming up to me saying, oh my gosh, you're so brave. And, that was puzzling. So there's just so many layers for us to process in this conversation, because I can see how there will be that you would have to deal with conversations of judgment about exhibitionist, that like that kind of language where it's just so removed from what you actually do and the gift that you give women in providing this kind of space to connect to our genuine self.
Yeah.
So for women, I would love to hear a little bit, like the stories of the women that have done this work with you, what their experience is the trepidation or the confidence or the, we know, how do they arrive and how do they leave? What is the transformation that you see?
Well, one, which is so beautiful and touches me every time, there's a return to home within the relationship with the earth. I've had women come who have resistance to like getting dirty, being dirty, like getting like intimate with the earth like that. If you're naked, putting your butt on the earth and bugs and just like what happens in our natural world. And there's a big shift around the connection that they have with the earth. And one of the things that from my perspective is so powerful and beautiful about that is that that is a relationship that is theirs. Like that's our like an inherent relationship. And the earth is this just this divine space that provides so much. So creating an environment where they can connect deeper and sink more into that relationship, like to me is like witnessing them having something greater for themselves. Like one of the women that came grew up in a very like purity, you don't go outside, you don't get dirty, like that's just not okay. Like nature dirt in any capacity is not okay. She now is like going in this space of being called to homesteading. She's got chickens. She lets her dogs come in and they track dirt in. I mean, chickens poop everywhere. And she actually shares this story on my podcast too about like how this evolution was for her. But she's got chickens and she's dreaming about cows and goats, and like that is a complete shift. Animals, like talk about getting in and growing her own food, like that is huge. Like there's this passion, like that's her number one passion right now. So she went total opposite. So there's that piece. I think, which is pretty big.
Yeah.
And there's also this other piece about finding your voice. And there's a lot of sexual trauma experiences, and from my perspective we all have it in some way, shape, or form. Whether we were physically violated or not, we were told to cover up, hide. Having breasts means something about you, and just being a woman means that you're an invitation for sex. And I mean, so many of us have said yes in environments that we didn't really want to, even if they were our husbands, our partners, our friends, being touched in any way. And so I've seen much transformation as it relates to that, and then having a voice to communicate boundaries, or like I'm not ready for that. And I have a woman who has come to my event. She's actually going to be doing her 4th event with me. And she has started to go inside of her yoni and just be with that. And it's been really confronting for her and uncomfortable. And she's been actually going inside of herself now and voicing with her partner boundaries that she has around like, I'm not ready for that right now. And like to be able to use, like for me, like to see like being able to use your voice even while you're in a partnership where like things have been going one way, and then to have a voice, it's like, and she's just come so present to, wow, there were so many times that I said yes, and I didn't really like that. I didn't want that in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then to be able to explore her body for herself and even go into it, even though there's moments where she's like, this is uncomfortable, I'm not really feeling anything, I think that this is weird. And
Yeah.
so that's big. And to be in a space, I've heard women come, they're like, this is the first time I've ever been in a space where sex wasn't being asked of me, where I was naked. And that in itself is a huge, because then that shifts the stories that I hear is there becomes this shift around like, what have I been allowing to happen? Like, what have I been letting into my body, into my space?
What is actually normal, what we make normal that really shouldn't be our normal.
Yeah. So that's a really big one.
Absolutely. And it's just that opening that little door in our minds to question and be curious. And it's like, it doesn't ever feel okay with me. And yet I keep saying it's okay because I'm told that that's what's normal. And so then we just allow it. And so it continues. Yeah. I can well imagine the complete shift in energy and perspective and experience of self in doing something like this, in a retreat like this. I can absolutely imagine the power of it and the gift that it is for women. I spent a lot of time in the US in 2019, and there was a very, very gorgeous woman there, Jamesine Blakely, who adopted me. I've interviewed her a few times. Her story is fascinating. But she invited me to go to a yoni retreat. And at that point, I didn't never even heard the word yoni. I was like, sure, what's that? It's like, so that was a revelation in itself. But we went to this retreat, which was, like, I don't consider myself a prude. I'm a real hippie at heart, and I'm also quite conservative. So there's a bit of a mix there. So I was open, I was like, oh well, let's see what this is about. But we had to take a photo of ourselves, of our yoni, and then paint a picture of it.
Yeah.
Squatting over my camera to take a photo was just like, I don't want to look at this. Where's the button? And then having to look at it and paint a picture of it. I gave my picture to my husband. I think it's actually in this room somewhere. I gave and there's gold sparkles on it. I gave it to my husband. He thought that was hilarious. He thought that was so good. But yeah, it's, like, it just and it gets to be fun. And of course you're surrounded by women and everybody's laughing and everybody's, this opens conversation, it opens talking, it opens connection. And like, we're not talking about the weather and what we have for breakfast. It cracks open the conversations that you've only ever had in your own head. And this is where the real power, this is where the real shift in identity and connecting with self starts to happen. So I imagine in this nude photography that you do, that's just the tiniest part of it, is actually having the photograph. What the power is really is in that cracking open of connecting to self. Amazing.
Yeah, and there's all these like different little layers of that in the experience. And like the creation of it is thinking about the softness of being a woman and the way that a bud begins to blossom. So we like come into the space and we do things that start to open us and open these parts of our bodies. And yeah, like being able to like look at ourselves, like look at our yonis and be with that. I can relate to what you shared in my own personal journey of like, oh, what this, like, how do you think this is beautiful? And sometimes I still have moments where I'm like, is this part of me really beautiful? And so there's different layers that I still move through in my own journey. And what's really beautiful about that is I finally got within myself, I don't have to be perfect to share. Like, oh my gosh, I struggled with that for a really, really, really long time. Like, I had to have it all figured out in order for me to share it with you. And I got to be the best of the best in everything, which is impossible. But that was a really big thing for me of like, I'm in my journey. I'm always going to be in my journey, and I have access to what I have access to share
Yeah,
with you.
yeah,
So that was really, really big in this journey. And I like to share that, like, I still go through spaces with nudity,
yeah,
with my body, with my vagina, my yoni, like all of me. And I have a lot more spaces where I have compassion and love and connection, and I see beauty than I ever have. And I still move through different layers and different types of environments where I get naked. um they can bring something different to this space. When you start bringing in other genders, you bring in men, and like there's a different thing that happens of like, oh my gosh, how am I feeling in my body? I'm at the nude beach, am I okay? Like, there's been different layers of healing as it relates to that. And so I just like to share, like, and have that reminder, like, we're all in our processes.
yeah.
And I think that's just big. I kind of took a little side note with that, but I feel like it's so important.
It is perfect. And you know what I really see and what's coming through for me is, interestingly, I wrote a post yesterday about the greatest gift we can give women is to hold space, is holding space for them. And it's not about being the authority and being the one with all the answers and being the expert and knowing exactly what to say. And, this is the shift from this very patriarchal way of doing things. This is the shift from I am the authority and here's the path, like the doctor that you saw that said this is the medicine to take, and you're like, hang on, do I have a say in this? Do you want to talk about this? Do you want to have a comment? No. So that's that very patriarchal model of authority that we've grown up in, and what we're shifting is into a much more feminine, like, I'm holding this space because this is work that I've been doing for a while and I see the power in it, but I'm holding the space for you to come in and ask questions and
Yeah.
do what I'm doing, but you do it your way. I can show you our way, but let's use this and make this yours. And I think that is the much more feminine way of doing things. And so that idea that you've got to be the expert, the authority, is that we, in this lovely feminine space, we're bringing the power back to equal. There's not an authority here. We are equal power, just different. I've been doing this work for a long time, so I can give you an idea. It's like one mother talking to somebody who's thinking of having children, or just had a brand new baby speaking to a mother that's got older children. One's not superior and inferior. We're equal. It's just this, I've got experience here. I've been doing this for a while. Let me show you and let me tell you what I've experienced, what I've learned. And you can take that and use that and make it your own. And I think this is the
Yeah.
perfect way to think about how this shift in the world is happening. Because there's lots of talk about, feminine energy and like these changes that are happening in the world. But until we bring it into story, which you've just done beautifully, until we bring it into story, it's just words that kind of float around and feel nice. I call it mental masturbation. Isn't that gorgeous? I didn't make it up. Somebody said that to me once, and I've never forgotten it. It's like we read another book, we listen to another podcast. It's like this stimulation, stimulation, stimulation. All feels good, but nothing's really changing. You can take that in.
No.
But like this is where, when we connect it to story, in
Mm-hmm.
women, supporting women through our expertise, our experience, the things that we've learned, now it means something.
Yeah, it's a circle. Like, we're in the circle together, and in a circle, we're all in the same level.
You just got these hearts. Do you know my daughters? Are you on a phone?
No, I'm on my iPad. Did hearts just pop up because I went like this, probably, or I went like this? It
Yes.
does. I swear it's spirit popping in, because there's always something that happens on a call where there's some emoji thing that pops up at the appropriate time.
I've got two daughters that don't live at home anymore, and we talk nearly every day. And they do this, like they do this on their phone, and all these hearts come up, and I'm so jealous. It's like mine doesn't do that.
Come up, hearts again. Well, it's a circle and hearts, yeah, right. And we're all together. And I look at it this way: is for me, I'm creating an environment,
Yeah.
and that I'm holding this space, like you said. And in that space, it's a room. It's like it's a space, and it's you come into this space, and then each individual gets to uncover and discover what they need. And for me, it's clear I don't know specifically what they're coming for and what the gifts are for them uniquely.
Yeah.
But I'm holding that space and providing an opportunity to come in. Like that's like and the earth shared a message with me some time ago, and she was just like, your job is just to get people here. Like create the container, be the space, get them here. Like, we got this. It's like, okay. So it's the space you come in, you enter in, and I picture it like a portal. Like it's got its own blueprint, an imprint of what it's here for. And it's really clear that people will come and get exactly what they need. But I'm not up to dictate what that is and what that looks like. And it has been a different array of things because we're all in different spaces.
I keep coming back to it because there's just it keeps coming up time and time again. I read a book last year called Lost Connections by Johann Hari. I actually did an interview series about it because I just found it so profound. And one of the connection, I mean, there's connection to people, there's connection to spirit, there's connection to childhood trauma, there's, you know, but connection to nature is the essence of the book is the incredible rise of mental ill health, depression, anxiety, you know, everything that's just absolutely epidemic. And we keep wanting to throw a pill at it and pathologize it, where it's actually, he's saying it's in his observation, it's a loss of connection. We're disconnected from people, we're disconnected from spirit, we're disconnected from nature. We're just disconnected everywhere. And it is this, you know, it's like you say, this gorgeous woman that showed up afraid of the dirt. I mean, that's so common because we've been taught to be scared of the sun, scared of the water, scared of, you know, like natural food, scared of dirt, scared of, you know, like all the stuff that is actually what heals us. It's what we're made of, for goodness sake.
Mm-hmm.
We're so disconnected from all these things. So what you're providing is this incredibly unique and precious pathway to reconnect to Mother Earth. And I hope you keep doing what you're doing.
I will. Thank you. And what I want to share about that is that I created a space that I was yearning for. And I know, yeah. And when you shared all of that, it's like those were things missing for me. I mean, when I moved away, you know, that relationship with the earth shifted. What didn't get completely lost, but it became a little bit different. And I was yearning for more connection. And we have touch in this space together. We have non-sexual touch with ourselves and with each other. And we need that. We need the space that we can feel skin on skin. We can feel skin on dirt. And I know that when I'm creating an event, a ceremony, a retreat, an offering, when I'm like, I want to go to this, I know it's like, that's it. Because I have to be there. But also, like, that's it. I'm listening to the space. And the irony is out of all the business trainings and things I took of like, how do you find your ideal person and create things and whatever, it's like, it's not really complicated. I'm my ideal person, and I create spaces that I want to be in because I have to be there. Like, I have to be there too. And it's really easy for me to create because I'm just listening And I get to be a part of that too. I get to receive. I'm on a retreat too. I'm playing a different role, but I'm there too. And I'm still receiving and healing and connecting and coming home too. And so I think that's really beautiful to like, we can have spaces that are for us. Like that's not because we're there. Like it's just like we're there. And the irony of that is that that's what others want too. And if we have that inspiration to create, it's because other people are their hearts are calling for it, and you've received some guidance to provide something. And it gets to be a win-win all around. Like we all get to, I think that's really magical. Like it's like, wow, it can all be nourishing for all of us.
Absolutely. And, you know, I didn't realize it until looking at it in hindsight that that's exactly what I've done. I've just created what I was yearning for, what I wanted. You know, like I carry these bodies of masterminds of women together for a year, and it's just this space where we get to have a beautiful, safe bubble to explore who we are. And as the women in my groups grow, I grow. We're all just, you know, like this beautiful, safe spaces just to say, actually, who am I? Who do I want to be in the world? And then we get to go back out and just start playing with that. So it's, you know, I see through these conversations, and I'm somewhere between 200 and 300, you know, beautiful conversations that I've had with people all across the world. And the people that I always want to talk to are the people who have come to be doing the meaningful work they do because of something they've been through. So you wouldn't have gone on this journey and followed this beautiful thread if you hadn't have got Crohn's. And, you know, like there's, you know, even doing the accounting, it's like, yeah, I tried that on, but it's not right. And then it's the connection with nature continues through the herbal medicines and now you've just taken this next.
Yeah.
So good.
Mm.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing so generously. I'm truly grateful, and I've loved every minute of this conversation.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, just feeling it in my body.
So for the women who would love to look at what you're doing, to explore more of your work, what is the best place for them to head? Where do they go?
You can go to my website, which is kerrykott.com. Can find me on Instagram, which my handle is nature is always nude, because it is. And you can also find me on Facebook under my name, Kerry Kott. Those are really the best ways. You can drop me an email. I'm available.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, honey. And I hope you have a gorgeous weekend ahead. It's still Thursday night for you, and it looks like it's almost bedtime. It's getting dark.
Oh, yeah. I was noticing I was trying to bring in my light a little bit of like, ooh. Oh, and by the way, you know what's a really great place to find me at is on my podcast. It's a really great, easy space to listen. It's called The Naked Human, and you can find it on, I think, almost all major listening platforms. So that's a really great place to dive in.
I want to just tell everybody, because I don't, we kind of hinted at it, but we didn't get there, and it was actually part of what I wanted to talk to you about. But maybe we'll do this again. Is that you live completely off grid, so the candles coming in. Have you got electricity?
I do. I have solar electricity.
Oh, light back. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a light back there, but I like to be mindful of that. And I like candlelight and stuff. So I could have moved the candle there. It's brighter. and I just, you know, there's lots of opening to the natural light.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you've got some pictures of your gorgeous cabin on socials, which I'm looking at all of it because I love all of it, Kerry. All right, darling. I hope you have a gorgeous evening and Friday tomorrow and beautiful weekend ahead. For those of you that are with us that are on my side of the globe, happy Friday. And I hope you have a beautiful weekend ahead. We will be back on Monday with another week of interviews next week, winding up on the 22nd. Please take a moment to leave some feedback, connect with this interview. Let us know what you think. Let us know if your experience of any of this. We'd love to hear. And if you want to invite any of your sisters, girlfriends, mum into this conversation, we will welcome them all with loving arms. All right, that's it from me today. So much love and bye for now.